Those are fighting words. Welcome to Recommended Daily Dose. I'm your host, Dr. Clinton Coleman, along with my esteemed colleague, Dr. Suraj Saggar. We have the pleasure of having Tevra Francis on the show. She is the publisher and founder of Bergen In Color. What they do is they promote diversity of Bergen County, just beyond lifestyle, events, philanthropy, news, and much more. So welcome, Tevra.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Now, I want to get into what you do with Bergen In Color, all the great things, but I just wanted to start off with this very serious topic, which I've been obsessed with. I'm sure you've seen it. What is going on with Karen and Kevin? You know, you've heard of these guys, right? KarensGoneWild?
I've heard of Karen.
There's Kevin, too.
I've heard of Karens. I haven't heard of Kevin's. I've heard of Karens. Karens are having...
Is Kevin the male version of the Karens?
Kevin is the male version.
Oh, okay, okay. So that's their counterpart. No, it's a scary time all around. So, in many ways, Karens and Kevins are scared, but for some of the wrong reasons. Fear can make you do a lot of crazy things, especially when that fear is based in ignorance. So sometimes we're always going to have those types, but we just have to kind of educate them, show them the folly of their ways. I don't know.
But I have a different take on it. I don't think putting them on blast is educating them. I think it's isolating some of these people more. So, like, you're embarrassing. I mean, rightfully so. I mean, they deserve everything they're getting. But I think we're not actually educating them. We're just more embarrassing them.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that helps the issue. The
reporting of some of these incidents is because a lot of times is what I said versus what they said. And there's nothing to really support, like, well, I was not, I saw the one from Montclair, New Jersey, where the lady said she was shoved. The neighbors said it never happened. But if this is a situation where the police are called and they said that this man shoved her, then that man is going to jail and he didn't shove her. Right. So a lot of times they're doing that because of, it's just a defense mechanism. Now, as far as the Karens are concerned, some people are never going to change. And I think a lot of times we want to, turn the other cheek or show, that this is not how, things are supposed to be handled. But there is a subset of people that really, they have all of the information available to them. Google is our friend. Like, Google is for everybody, and it's on every phone, it's on every computer. There are books still. And, if you really choose to live in ignorance, then I kind of don't feel bad when you're embarrassed, because a lot of it's not necessary, especially the Karens that I've seen. They have access to Google.
Right. You made a good point. I think it is a choice to be ignorant. Like, there's so much information out there, and I guess at the age that we're seeing these people, they should know right from wrong.
Yeah, they're grown. These are not children.
Right. So tell us about Bergen In Color and what made you start that.
Okay, so Bergen In Color is a platform that I created about 1.5 years ago to connect to the diversity of Bergen County and beyond. And so the reason why it came about is I'm a native of California. I went to college down south. I lived down south for several years. And then I met my husband, and he wasn't moving down south. So I had to move here. And so moving, several different major moves over my life, I'm kind of used to having to find a new community and all of those things. But coming to the north, to New Jersey, and then working in New York City, it was like a huge culture shock. So just trying to start from scratch. He's not a guy that's going to get his hair done. He doesn't know about nails. So I had to do all of that digging myself, finding community in churches and where to shop and, all of those things, what towns I like to hang out in just for, date night or whatever. So a lot of that, looking around was helpful to me, but I figured over time that, this could be helpful to somebody else, because not everybody is a native of New Jersey. So I had this kind of milling around in my head. And when I stopped working in the city, I really was in New Jersey all the time. So it's like, okay, well, let me figure out how I can make this into a thing. And so it started as an Instagram page. My biggest audience is on Instagram right now, but is growing into an online magazine, a website, a print. Let me put my fingers across. print and everything like that. So, and I've been kind of in the past, I would say the past like 9 months or so, I've been really overwhelmed with the support and the reaction to the platform.
But now, would you say what existed before, was that not helpful, do you think, to like certain minorities? Let's say 201 magazine, telling you
I can answer that.
Where to go.
I'm not naming names because
that's the one that came to mind.
You know what? I'll answer this. For Bergen County to be such a diverse community, there's like, just to have your platform is such a breath of fresh air, because to go on Google or Yelp or certain magazines, it doesn't reflect that diversity. So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're right. I'm not naming names, even though one of them I got it at my house today, and it's very diverse this month. So kudos to them, but I'm not going to name their name. It looks great. So as you guys know, we get these publications for free because we live here. And I would, be thumbing through, and you only see like one person in an ad, maybe a brown person in, the background of a group shot, and it's like, well, I know, like I see people in their cars. I see people. So where are they? Where do they do their things at? Where are their events? So that was because, we all know the power of media, and it's almost like you can't be what you can't see. So if we don't see Black and brown doctors, and I'm married to a physician, and he is very Black. So it's like, if people don't see that side of what we offer as a community, if they don't see, the more than just the basketball stars or the comedian that may live locally, if they don't know that there's a whole community of Black, brown, Asian people that live here that do all types of things, if they don't see that, then they don't know it's there. So they only think that, when they see the headline of, this crime or that person did this, that's all that they see of that community. That's what they think of that community all the time. And that's not true.
That's very important, because like you said, if a certain population, that's all they see. And then it just becomes human nature, and that they become programmed to think, well, an African American must be a basketball star or must be committing crime, because that's what I see in the news, And they don't see, the entrepreneurs, the professionals, the doctors, the lawyers, the dentists, and I think that's very empowering and very important. Do you focus, so for instance, I know like in the Hispanic population, they have Hispanic or Spanish print media, in the Korean populations, they'll have Korean publications. Even, there's a large Indian population, East Indian Asian population in Bergen County. There's prints and media in Hindi. So are you targeting specifically the African American experience in Bergen County, or are you looking at all minorities in Bergen County?
Well, I'm obviously Black. My background is both of my parents are Jamaican immigrants, and same with my husband, but we were born in the States. So for us, our experience has been a Caribbean one.
Caribbean,
a very American one. Like I said, I grew up, I was a Valley girl. I grew up in Moreno Valley, California. So can't get more Valley than that. I'm a Valley girl. I went to University of South Carolina. I lived in Florida. Like I had a very distinctively American experience.
Sure.
And now I live here. So my base is African American. I like to pull in different cultures and different nationalities and whatnot, because and it's to varying degrees, because some communities do need to get to know me a lot more before they let me in, which is understandable. But I do not, like at first when I was playing with names and I was like, oh, should I call it Black Bergen or Black in Bergen? My husband was like, well, you're going to cut yourself off from a lot of the other people here. And that's
right.
kind of against what you said that this is about. And so in color, the logo has the various shades of people.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, so I kind of want to, and as the print and the online magazine develop, you'll see more of other cultures and because again, Jamaica's motto is of many, one people. So we come in all shades, we come in all types. So I can't neglect the fact that I'm doing this because I did not see all of these other types, and then I'm gonna, so that's just gonna continue through the platform.
I like that, because when I'm in Jamaica, I've been there several times. I mean, you meet Chinese Jamaicans, you meet white Jamaicans, right, of ancestors of the English that were there. You meet plenty of Indians.
Can I ask you a question though? Do you get your hair braided when you're in Jamaica with the beads?
It's one braid.
When I used to eat chicken, I ate a lot of jerk chicken. Drank a lot of Red Stripe. And I would have the traditional Jamaican breakfast, which I'm forgetting. There was festival.
Saltfish.
Yes, I would have. That's right. And the festival, the bread dough, very nice. But I like what you said, because yes, you're Jamaican, but you have a distinctly American upbringing. I identify very much with being Indian, but I was born, brought up here, and have a very distinct, typical American upbringing. So I do think that, but I think that's a strength. I cannot say I have the same perspective as someone who's born and brought up in India, and you probably wouldn't have the same perspective as someone born and brought up in Kingston. But by having that unique experience, I think that you're very varied. You can relate to a wide variety of people, not just your ancestral home of Jamaica, but everyone you've grown up with. So I find people like that, or people like us, I should say, that have an ancestral home, but that grew up here. It's kind of like the best of both worlds. You can kind of take the best of both worlds and relate to a lot of different people.
Exactly.
You guys both brought up good points. I think, Black folks, we tend to wait for other people or rely on other people to organize or speak for us or promote us. Other cultures, Indian, Jewish, Asian, they got their magazines and they buy their own, they support each other. So I'm not sure. I'm sure there's some historical context and lack of identity, and it's a complicated issue. But so I think what you're doing is great and well needed. What are some of the amazing businesses and organizations that you can let us know about?
Okay, so businesses and organizations. So let me start with businesses. So I love to eat, obviously, So I find all of these various small restaurants that have started here in Bergen County that, especially with the COVID shutdown and the lack of PPP, a lot of our smaller restaurants are really struggling. And now that we're trying to climb out and have outdoor dining, we really need to just continue to support them. So my big three, I call them my big three, are always going to be TJ's Southern Gourmet in Inglewood. Yep. And then there's Coffee and Cornbread. Yep.
They're moving to Montclair, though. I know.
Yeah, that's still North Jersey.
We can drive to Montclair.
Yeah, we could commute. I don't know.
Cornbread sounds good.
Coffee and Cornbread. And then a new one that I'm in love with is the Burritos food truck.
Oh, wow. And
they have a flagship restaurant. It's like a takeout. It's almost like a Chipotle. But it's three young guys that they're super young, African American guys that they make tacos, burritos, quesadillas, and things like that, and it's delicious, and it's right there in Hackensack. And so those are my big three as far as fast restaurant eats. I love Jerked, if you know of Jerked, across the street from Hackensack Hospital. Regina's. I go to Regina's. I don't know who owns it, but I love Regina's, and it's across the street from Holy Name Medical.
On Thursday nights it becomes a little club scene, and you can catch Clenton dancing in there actually if you pop in on Thursday evening. So
you know how to dance? Oh wow!
He likes to get a little drink. I've walked in there and seen him dancing. I'm just saying
on the table.
It's something to hold. So just consider going there on a Thursday night. Sorry.
I'll keep an eye out for him. Other ones, the Jamaican spots, 14 Parish out in Hackensack. There's so many, but those are my top restaurants. Businesses, well, let me skip to organizations. So there's a organization that I'm a close, I just joined their board, so I don't know if that's full disclosure. I just joined their board. So Never Alone Again Resource Center is founded by Teresa Johnston, and she is a domestic violence survivor who she has a really harrowing story, but in one of those incidences, she prayed that if she can make it out alive for her children, she will make sure that another woman doesn't have to go through this again. And so after that, she started this organization. They shelter women who are in crisis. They help them, even taking the kids to school, finding them accommodations, food, supplies, especially now with COVID, a lot of these people that are displaced, just getting them the basics that they need. helping them find work, all of that stuff that needs to happen when a woman or a person decides to leave an abusive situation. So that's an organization that I really have championed since I've been here and doing Bergen In Color. And there's a lot. You guys know that there's a lot, but to rattle them off, it'll take like another hour.
No, but I think it's so important because, like you said, these things are not always readily identifiable in some of the more mainstream. Later on I'll have a talk to you. You said you grew up in the South. I grew up in the South also. So I love Southern food and I love Indian food. So I was thinking of, but that's not true because you're from New Jersey. You don't know that. If you go south of the Bay, the Eastern Shore, that's very much the South. Geographically, not the South. Culturally, the South. Richmond is not geographically the South, but culturally it's the South, right? So, but I had an idea of like Southern food and Indian food combo. So we got to talk about that later, and maybe I could promote it on your print media and on your social platforms. But that's something to be determined.
I'll reserve my comments for later, but that might be interesting. Yes,
it might be good. Listen, you never know because
you never know. You never know. Stranger things have happened.
I like cornbread, all right, and I like tandoori chicken. You can make it work. Believe me. Well, we can make it work.
Wow, that's a great idea, actually.
See, I like grits. I like Southern food. I like hush puppies. So see, you can make it work.
Grits with curry shrimp.
Have pecan pie and Indian dessert all together. It's and wouldn't it be nice just to show how all these cultures can blend together? So. So we're talking about Jamaica.
A lot of these flavors come from, as you know, a lot of these flavors come from India.
Where do you think curry comes from?
All of that, curry, all that stuff comes from the same place anyway. So I'm sure if you brought it back together, it could work.
Well, I mean, it's a very interesting history, right? And I love history. We know that once slavery was abolished, then they had indentured servants. The British still had to, have people work these fields, and they brought people. Especially from China and from the poorer people from India, and that's how you have these huge Indian populations in the Caribbean. And they brought with them their religion, they brought with them their food, and that's why things like roti has all of a sudden become a Jamaican specialty, but that's just Indian, and curry, which is just a mixture of spices, is now very typical Caribbean flavored food, but that comes from India. So I like to drop knowledge on Clinton every now and then, just so you understand. I don't want this to go over your head, Clinton, but I want to get
dropping knowledge. Now, you can't talk Bergen In Color without talking about social issues, particularly in Bergen County. Do you have any feelings about like the changing racial climate in the United States, or?
Of course I do. I have so many feelings, but when I first started Bergen In Color, I said, I'm not going to be political. I'm not going to do, but as things have progressed, especially now, with you guys know firsthand, and Clinton, we talked about this on our show, the death rates with COVID-19 in the African-American community were just astounding. And we had to talk about a lot of the underlying issues as to why this was, because it doesn't, just because African-Americans were dying at a faster rate, it wasn't solely because of, we are bigger or a lot of other factors were involved, like housing and access to good foods and access to regular health care and all of those things that have traditionally been the problem point for some of the racial justice, racial equality or equity points in America. And, it goes back to like, I don't know what your prayer was at the turn of 2020, but, we all said something to the effect of having 2020 vision. And in many ways, like 2020 and everything that has happened since then really made a lot of things clear to us. And with all of these deaths, all of everything that's happening with this administration and the lack of leadership, the lack of clear guidance, the lack of empathy, the lack of everything that could be considered positive, on top of, with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all of these, too many hashtags to name, especially in this past short amount of time. It's almost like trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma. And then so now you're dealing with mental health and the disparities within the mental health community and access to adequate care in that space. So there's so many, it's almost like overwhelming when you kind of layer all of the things happening at the same time. Locally, I feel like, we have, Bergen County as much as we like to think that this is kind of like a Beverly Hills type situation, we're just like every other region in America. We have those who are extremely wealthy, and we have those who are, you know, extremely poor, and then we have those who are in the middle. And so we get into this bubble again. You know, media reflects what they want you to see. We have this bubble where we feel like we're not going to be affected by, you know, police injustice or health disparities, when, you know, this year we've seen in several instances that is not the case. Like, we really need to address these things, and it comes down to leadership. It comes down to being proactive about a lot of things, and it comes down to also just making people aware that this doesn't exist here. Like, there are problems right here. Of course, yeah. Right here. We don't have to go and give money to some random, you know, organization far off in some far off place. We need help here at home. So right. A lot of those issues, educationally, like there are issues in Fort Lee, there's issues in Inglewood, definitely. There's just so much. I could, you know, that it's just a lot. So I think, you know, with Bergen In Color, I try to do as much as I can to at least let people see some of it. Right. I'm not, you know, hard-hitting news. I'm not, you know, investigative reports. I'm not any of those things. I'm just, you know, a woman with an Instagram and a website. And so I can only do but so much. But I do want people to at least start thinking about some of these issues in their, you know, philanthropy, in their activism. We need more people in leadership as far as politically. We need more Black and brown people to get active. We have no, to my knowledge, there's only one person of color in the freeholders, in the Bergen County freeholders. We need more because, as we know, you know, there's more than just one group living in Bergen County. We need, you know, just representation all around, and we need people to be empowered to say, you know what, I can run. I'm smart, or, you know, I have something to say, or I have a right, you know, and so, you know, behind the scenes, a lot of my friends who I feel could take that step to say, hey, just go for school board. School board is, you know, start there, and or make sure you vote, or get to learn the Bergen County Clerk's office and volunteer, or do something so that you can kind of get more acclimated to the process, and letting people know that they do have the power to change something in their own way. Right. That's what I try to do.
No, I appreciate. I appreciate what you said about the disparities that were raised with COVID, because Clinton and I, you know, being on the front lines, we saw this very early on, that this was, you know, it affected all caste, creed, religions, color, but disproportionately it was socioeconomic factors at play. Mm-hmm. We know, like, the African American community was disproportionately hit in places like Chicago, Detroit, Milwaukee. I would say in our own area, we very quickly saw probably more in some of the Central and South American communities, right? But it's all bringing to light the issues that you talked about, and that's why I appreciate that, because issues that you don't normally think about, which is like, it's easy to tell someone to quarantine at home if they have a white-collar job, right, and they have Wi-Fi at home. But what if the people who are,
you know, like a lot of us have, you know, single-family homes. It's easy to say, hey, quarantine. Yeah, right. I can go out in my backyard and go play in my garden. Quarantining for me is lovely, but for a lot of people, it's not. It's being stuck in a home or an apartment or somewhere, you know, where there's lots of people using the same facilities,
same bathroom,
the same things. You can't. The cleaning supplies are, you know, if you're in a food desert, it's hard to get supplies. It's hard to get food. It's hard, and it was difficult for us. And we have the luxury of being able to get Amazon delivered to our front door. So we have to be mindful. And in areas like Queens and Brooklyn and here in Hackensack, Teaneck, you know, a lot of people that we now call essential workers, you know, they had to work because they had to work, you know, and they didn't have the luxury of being protected from this virus because they had to go and give us our food. So we have to be mindful of the people that were affected by this and do more to kind of bridge the gap for them. Because, you know, like I said before, my husband works in a hospital in the city, and he's an essential worker. But he also has an office with a door. So, you know, at the end of the day, he doesn't have to be, you know, in the mix with everybody like the nurses are, or like, you know, so it's, we have to make sure that when we're doing all of these things, a lot of people give a lot of money to various things here in this area. we are making sure that we are looking at what's going on right here at home.
No, that's so important. Yeah.
Yeah, I think anytime you have a community who is suffering the most, you have to apply those resources mostly to that community. Do you think as physicians that we have a role to play in social issues, or should we just doctor and be quiet?
Shut up and doctor.
Yeah. Should we just stay in our lane? That's what people tell us. Or is it that racism is a public health issue and we should be not just address it, but be very vocal about it, just like we address high blood pressure?
Not even that, but just as leaders in our community, you know, we have a set of patients and we are their leaders, you know, for their health, right? We advocate for them. We can advocate outside of health-related issues, even though race is a public health issue.
I think once you realize race is a public health issue, then you say, no, it is in my lane. It is part of what I was bound to do, was the oath that I took. Just like I said, I should take care of someone's diabetes or infection or kidney disease. You know, I have to take care and address these issues. And I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, what do you think physicians can do to be more vocal and take a leadership position with racism?
I have a couple of points. So something that my husband said the other day, because as you guys know, in his department, well, as I'm assuming you guys know, a lot of professionals amongst themselves are talking now, and especially in arenas where there's very few people of color. You know, I told him, oh, so they're calling their black friend because, you know, he's the black friend. So he said something that I thought was pretty interesting. He looked at it from a scientific standpoint. His whole thing is, you know, if you're creating any type of like a study or you're researching something, having everything being homogenous as far as your population, it will affect your outcomes because your outcomes are not reliable. So even on a scientific level, you would want to have a team or a staff or a group that comes from all different backgrounds, that's representative of all types, because you'll have a more holistic view of whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. And so in that vein, I say, you know, diversity is a good thing. And in medical situations, you know, background, my master's degree is in healthcare administration. So I worked in the hospital. And so in working and trying to climb the ladder, you know, a lot of the barriers are, you know, it's not just on the medical level, it's on the business level, because as we all know, healthcare is a business. And so we need to make sure that as, you know, programs and preventive care and testing and different things are become available, that, you know, there's education and inclusion that goes along with that, because a lot of times we are not to say seeking out, but making available a lot of the things that exist within a hospital. Right. So, you know, certain populations will never know that there's tests to do this or treatments that do that, because it's not made available to them. And some of that is by design, knowing that from an administrative standpoint. A lot of that is because there's an assumption that African Americans are all on Medicaid, or they're not going to be able to afford it, or it's just not for them, so they don't even offer it in certain regions or areas where that population is greater, or Latino populations are greater. I think, you know, medical professionals do have their role, and administrators have their role, because at the end of the day, they hold the purse strings and decide where, you know, funds are allocated. I think the Affordable Care Act tried to address some of this with some of the quality measures, but you know, God bless Barack Obama. I don't know what's going to happen to the Affordable Care Act.
So far, it's safe, but
and grow.
For now, it's safe for now.
Safe for now. So some of the quality measures within the ACA will hopefully, you know, make a change, but it has to be kind of like a concerted effort on all fronts, business and medical and research, to kind of make sure that we're getting more complete opportunities for all people, instead of just focusing on one and one particular group. In this community, there are groups that have their own, like, culturally based programs within the hospital, like built within the hospitals. I think that, you know, that should be something that could be considered for more groups. or a multicultural patient care, officer. I don't know what you would even call it, but somebody or some group or some team that deliberately addresses, okay, well, how will this affect this group, and how will this affect this group, or what is the cultural standard for this group, and should we be sensitive to how we approach it, because we want them to get the information. How should we tailor our messaging to be able to deliver that to them?
And for better or for worse, I think hospitals actually caught on to that as a marketing, I don't want to say tactic, but a way to attract certain patients to their hospitals by offering a blah, blah, blah American program and this and that. That way you gear. I mean, it has benefit, but you're not sure what their
end game is.
Yeah, but it's a good thing. So
we've always tried to promote and discuss and embrace, and we appreciate all the efforts that you're doing, and it's not only needed, but it's desperately needed, So I think you're gonna have a lot of success.
I hope so. Thank you.
I have no doubt about it.
We're looking forward to your print of Bergen In Color. When do you think that's going to be out?
Print is expensive. There's a reason why so many of our favorite magazines are getting thinner and thinner, because print is expensive. But I really want that to be a component of Bergen In Color. So thank you. I appreciate that. And you guys will definitely be in our issue. Yeah.
But in the meantime, where can people find you?
So you can find me on all social media at Bergen In Color. The mothership is bergenincolor.com. You can join our mailing list. We have a business directory that is going to be on the site. That's free because, again, small businesses, minority-owned businesses, they can't kick out money for every single thing. So I'm just doing this for free. And we have a survey, because one of the things that is important is that we get to know, like, who exactly are we catering to. So we just ask that everybody complete our survey. And I also ask that everybody vote and do your census.
Thank you. Well, we wanted to thank Tevra Francis for coming on and talking about Bergen In Color. Please follow her on all the social media, and I'll be waiting in the mail for my my print.
Oh, don't wait in the mail. I might have to drop it off with my car.
You know what, Clinton?
Oh, here we go. Here goes a joke. Here goes a joke. Go ahead.
For you. Okay. Clinton, just drop off at Clinton's house. He'll be happy to deliver all over Bergen County.
I can do a bicycle route starting in Mawa.
Bicycle route, just sling him around. Absolutely.
Yeah. Like the paper boy. Yes, I think I might have to hire him for that.
But you know what I would say? I mean, I'm not a business person, but I mean, I know studying history and studying economics. I mean, America's built upon the backs of small business owners. You know, it's not the Walmarts of the world, whatever. And so the fact that you're promoting small business, minority-owned business, I mean, that's what America's all about. And hopefully that's what it'll continue to be, and be even more so for all ethnicities and all people. So, I mean, I have to commend you on that. You know, again, that's just fantastic. I love that.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your support. I appreciate it.
So, you know, we appreciate you so much for coming on today. I mean, obviously very timely now, but it's always timely. It's always an issue that should be in the forefront, not just now, not just on this certain news cycle, right? We need to keep this going and these conversations going, and more than conversations, because once you have enough conversations, you know, Clinton and I have talked about before that it's time for real change and not just conversation.
Yeah. So, not just talk, not just lip service.
And then continuing this on and on until real change has been made. But we really appreciate you coming on today. We appreciate you, the listeners out there listening to Recommend Daily Dose. Find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Until next time, I'm your host, Dr. Suraj, and my esteemed colleague, Dr. Clenton Coleman. Until next time, be well. See you next time.